Hello and welcome to the Super Rugby Round 11 preview show. This is from DrivingMaul. I am Paul, the guy behind DrivingMaul, a YouTube channel, podcast, Twitter account and website bringing the best in rugby predictions and opinion. And yes, it's a solo show tonight. I am on my own, but that is all okay. We will still go through all the games, have a quick look at some of the squads and let you know how I see them panning out. Now, yes, these will be the same predictions that you will have seen on YouTube already. So if you've seen the predictions, don't expect them to be different. My mind hasn't changed overnight. So first up, we have the Hurricanes versus the Sunwolves. And the headline of this is that Nay Milner-Skudder is back and he's on the bench. So that's going to be exciting to see him come onto the pitch. Clearly, he is going to be rusty. Yeah, it's good to see him back. Again, he's a player that's been plagued with injuries since the Rugby World Cup, basically, and it's good, and hopefully he can have a period now without that. A couple of players have been rested for this one. I thought perhaps there might have been a couple more, but Laumape and Fafita have both been given the week off. Julian Surveyor is back in the back line, and Ardy, his brother, could also be back, but he's bracketed after coming back from the head knock, so some final checks on that one. Interesting at scrum half is TJ Perinara. Obviously, is out. I think he's injured. And Finlay Christie comes in to make his debut there. So it's going to be interesting to see how he goes. But he has got experienced players inside and outside of him. Because playing Brad Shields has moved to 8, and you obviously got Bowden Barrett at 10. So Finlay Christie's going to get as good an armchair ride as possible. This is the perfect opportunity for him to get his debut for the side. Back line, Vince Arso at inside centre, which is interesting. Normally an outside centre or winger, or second 5'8" if we're talking New Zealand terms. So yeah, Vince Arso in the 12 jersey. Matt Proctor outside him at 13, come back from injury. Was he back last weekend? Anyway, either way. Julius Surveyor and Ben Lamb on the wings, and Geordie Barrett at fullback. So a recognised back division there, and with a fairly settled front division as well. You've got to say that the Sunwolves are going to struggle against that lot. Gareth Evans moves to the bench. So they've got power off the bench, got depth as well there. Interesting to see that Ihaya West has been dropped in favour of Gordon Bashop there. He offers a bit more inside centre, a bit more versatile than West. So with Milner-Skudder there, basically covering the back three, you need someone to help cover the centres. I think is basically the thinking behind that one. Over to the Sunwolves, and it looks like a fairly settled side there as well. Hayden Parker at 10, and Tanaka at 9 will be running the show with Michael Little, outside him, outside them. So in what is a settled back line, and the front division, the forwards look pretty settled as well. The problem is they're coming off obviously a good performance, but a poor result last weekend, and hence why I think we're going to see something similar happen this weekend. And I'm backing the Hurricanes to win this one by about 20. I think it's going to be that kind of score for this one as well. We then have a rare Friday night game with the Stormers hosting the Rebels. Obviously, that'll be in the early hours for those of us over here in New Zealand. And again, we have another exciting outside back returning from injury with Sinatla coming on to the bench for the Stormers, which will be interesting to see. Floyd in Pinks is in the live chat. Hopefully the Wolves are the same thing they had for breakfast against the Crusaders. Yeah, we do want to see them to be as competitive as possible. And as Steve from Cornflakes Crib always reminds us, the New Zealand people haven't seen that much of the Sunwolves because of the way that the whole conference system worked over the last 2 seasons. So it's good to see them over here. We do want to see them going well. As for the Stormers, we've got Sinatla back on the bench. Otherwise, we're still similar, a fairly settled kind of side here. for the Stormers. Now the Stormers coming off the back of, I think it's 3 losses away, but they've won all of their home games, lost all their away games, so they've got to be happy to be back home for this one, and you'd expect them to perform a lot better as well. I say it'd be good to see Sunetla back. Obviously, a sevens wizard. Still seeing how he's going to cut it in 15s properly. Dylan Lades and Williamson will switch around, well, to alternate between 15 and 10 for the whole playmaking duties, as we've seen them do before. And players like Delende will obviously need to lead that back line with their experience. In the forwards, Khaleesi obviously going to be a big man, but it's interesting to see Peter Steph-Toy back. Or sorry, not back. He's moving into lock, should I say? Sorry. So it should be a more versatile, a more agile, or more mobile pack this weekend. Up against them is the Rebels, and with 7 changes from the last weekend's loss against the Bulls. And yes, it was a poor performance last weekend, wasn't it? The big news is that Will Genia is back at 9. So hey, they've actually got a chance in this one. I thought he was out for longer than that. It looks like he's just missed the 1 game. Dame Helmut Petty and Ben Daly are missing this one due to concussion protocols with the 5-day turnaround, which is a shame that they're missing this. But I think I always like a person who's failed a HIA to miss the following week anyway. Dame Helmut Petty missing. This is 2nd concussion or head injury that's meant he's missed games this season. So that has got to start being a worry. He had that big one against was it the Waratahs? I think it was a few weeks back. Couple of things coming up. So Hodge just needs 3 more points to surpass Jason Woodward as the club's the highest scorer. So last weekend he jumped past James O'Connor so he's got just 2 kicks or a try, and that'll see him home as the Rebels' highest ever point scorer. And also English's try against the Waratahs saw him equal Hodge and former Rebels captain Scott Higginbottom as the club's leading try scorer with 15. So either English or Hodge, if they score, could go out in front as the leading try scorer on their own this weekend. So keep an eye out for those milestones. Otherwise, say seven changes. So obviously the coaching staff not happy with last week's performances, but also a couple of what's the word I'm looking for? A couple of injuries have also forced their hands as well. Jeff Parling is going to start for the first time, I think it is, this season. So yep, and also Billy Meeks as well. So it's going to be interesting to see what comes out of them. But I think on the road against the Stormers side that haven't lost at home, you've got to back the Stormers to win. And I'm backing the Stormers to win that one by 5. The Reds then host the Lions in an afternoon game in Australia. So I'll be doing post-match reaction, by the way, to the Hurricanes versus Sunwolves, and also this one as well, the Reds versus the Lions. The Reds make 4 changes to starting 15 from last weekend. George Smith is back in the starting lineup. The old man is back there, so obviously proved himself off the bench last weekend. And Samu Karevi has been named captain with Scott Higginbottom and Slipper both out injured. Interesting one is that Stuart's been promoted in the place of Lance, who is missing due to a concussion from last weekend. Concussion's coming up quite a lot in this one, hasn't it? This will be Stuart's first start in Super Rugby. So it's going to be a really inexperienced sort of team, or at least a guy leading the bench there. Leading the team around the park. Ben Lucas is going to need to step up and provide some leadership, and Samu Karevi as well. So the players inside and outside of Stuart there to help him on this one. The pack are going to need to step up big time in this for this one. Whenever you're hosting someone like the Lions, your pack need to step up, get some platform, and your backs are going to need to be good defensively. Unfortunately, I can't see that happening. I'm back in the Lions in this one by 10. There's no team news yet from the Lions, so we'll have to wait and see who they've selected and what that team's looking like But after the Lions' performance last weekend, nilling the Waratahs, you've got to say that the Lions are looking good. Then we have the Blues hosting the Jaguares with 19 players on the injury list last week. It's good, obviously, that it looks like Austin Pulu is hopefully returning from injury. But at the moment, he's still bracketed. It's not confirmed that he's going to be back. And with the Blues losing 2 more players last weekend, so even though they've also got back Gerard Cowley, Tuoti, you've got to say losing 2 more means there's still 19 players missing. That's a large injury toll. And yeah, you can't blame the coaches for all of that, unfortunately. So they've Patrick Tuipulotu has been unwell, and that's where we see Stephen Perifetta back at 10 instead of being out at 15, and Gatlin actually drops out of the squad entirely, which was we haven't actually got the reserves bench yet, so I've not seen that yet, but he drops out the starting 15. Matt Duffy at 15 is going to be interesting. He's normally out there on the right wing, but Highland is going to cover that. And we've got Manu on the other one. Rico Baddock at 12 because of the lack of any centre options, with Ledger outside and Ledger. So that's a very inexperienced back line, and with also Matt Duffy out of position. I mean, Manu, Ledger, Highland, all with very little experience. So they really do need to get Pulu back to be there with Perifetta to manage this crowd, because otherwise it is, let's say, they need the leadership. In the forwards, missing Tuipulotu is not good, but at least Cowley, Tuioti can step in to fill that void, and it looks like Kieran Pryor is bracketed as well. So we'll see how he goes. Akira Iwan is going to need a big game in this. Let's be honest. A lot of it has been around him this season, and with Rico at 12, we've all said it. He's much more dangerous on the wing at the moment than he is in the centres. So with that lack of freedom, you've got to say the forward's going to need to do a lot more work in this one, you'd think. Not seeing the Jaguares line up to be honest, but after their good performance last weekend it was the win against Rebels, wasn't it? I'm looking forward to seeing what happens this weekend. I'm a Blues fan, so it is scary, this one, because I actually think the Jaguares are going to win this one, and I'm backing Jaguares by 3 here, because the Blues, with all those injuries, with a whole, it must be losing is a habit, just like winning is a habit, and unfortunately the Blues have got that at the moment. So that's why I'm saying I'm backing the Jaguares to win that one by 3. Then we head back over to Australia. I'll be doing live post-match reaction to the Blues Jaguares game as well. Then we head back over to Australia for the Brumbies versus the Crusaders. In that one, we've got Sam Carter, who'll be coming up with his 100th game for the Brumbies. So congrats to him. But a big loss for them. With Pocock out with calf injury, that's a massive loss for the Brumbies against the Crusaders, and they're still rotating players and that 12 jersey. So Smith, I've got the guy's first name now, Andrew Smith will come into that 12 jersey. They're still not really figured out how their kind of the playmaking axis for them, have they? Which, having tried. I've gone blank as to, is it Good? No, it's not good. Godwin, Leofano in that jersey. Now we've got Andrew Smith. So you've got to hope that, Kieran Drani, Spate, Penny and Banks out there, if they can be released, the Brumbies can do some damage. But that 10-12 combination just really hasn't been able to do that so much this season. That's got to be the big worry. Also, obviously up front, they also need to create that platform. And without Pocock at the breakdown, that's going to be a struggle. The Crusaders, 7 changes to this team from the side that beat the Sunwolves last weekend. So basically, it's the first team again, barring injuries, that they've gone with. with that in mind, you've got to say this is has Crusaders win written all over it. I'm backing them by 10. As we see, yep, Cody Taylor come back in. Owen Franks gets another start. Obviously, he's back from injury. Whitelock comes back in. Who else is there? Brian Hall comes back in, and with Drummond on the bench. So we've got the 2 experienced players there. Crotchy's there with Bateman, Dag, Havili, Tamanavalu in the back 3 with Matuleli to come on. You've got to say that is there's plenty of firepower there to get the points. And then you've also got to like Crockett, Alalatoa, Romano, and there's All Blacks caps there on the bench. So, yep, it's this is let's say Crusaders win all the way on that one. Going into the night or through the night, we then have the Bulls versus the Highlanders to finish things off. Schumann obviously will miss for 6 weeks after a 6-week ban for biting. Lots of comments on Twitter as to look. Yes, he admitted it, but is that justification for taking a 12-week ban down to 6? Yep, I know they do like to halve it because of admission of guilt and showing sorrow. But yeah, 12 weeks down to 6 weeks, that's a big drop. It feels a little bit wrong, but anyway, that's what's happened. I've got no other team news yet for these games. When they have these games in South Africa, quite often the team news comes out around about midnight tonight. So a bit behind on that one. The Bulls obviously have been going well recently, and it was good to see their forwards bursting up through the middle with some offloading last weekend, back into the sort of style they played against the Hurricanes. So they're showing they can do a bit of different stuff at home, or different styles of play, and have been good at home. The Highlanders, though, are one of the top teams in this competition, have been in a lot of form. I think they've pretty much got all their players available to them. Maybe 1 or 2. They've only got a couple of injuries. They're not in the same state as the teams like the Chiefs and the Blues, who've got long injury lists. And so, you've got to say the Highlanders are going to be favourites this one. I'm backing the Highlanders by 7. So thank you very much for joining me and watching the show preview, or my in-depth preview into the games this weekend. Please do subscribe. Box down below on my face there to get more videos through. Also, if you like, there's also my link to my newsletter in the notes below, and that means you'll get an email every Thursday with links to all of my videos, and so that way you won't miss a thing. So do think about signing up for that as well, please, and enjoy whatever rugby you're watching this weekend.